Hey everyone, welcome back to my kitchen. You know, I was going through my refrigerator and on my counter and saying, I would have way too much stuff in here, I've got to clean it out. So I started pulling some stuff out of the freezer that's been in there for a while, and by the time I was done I looked at my counter and said, you know what, I can make some great pizza rolls out of what I had. I had some tomatoes that are left over from my garden, some basil left over from the garden, some salami in the freezer, some cheese that's been in my cheese bin for a little bit too long. Not quite to the point where it's growing fuzzy, but don't want to get to that point, do we? Alright, so it's provolone, some salami, some tomatoes, some basil, and of course I always have the makings for some pizza dough. So I just pulled it all together and I'm going to make some pizza rolls. They're kind of like cinnamon rolls, only pizza. And they freeze really well, they make great lunches, they make great bake sale items, anything like that. They're hard to resist. So let's just get started. Alright, I made some pizza dough. Made a lot of pizza dough. I'm just going to turn that right out into my non-stick mat, and we're just going to roll it out until it's about 1/4 of an inch thick. You don't want it to be too thick because then your rolls will have not a good ratio of bread to filling. And if you don't mind having a lot more pizza dough than fillings, then go ahead and make it a little bit thicker. It also won't cook quite as nicely. It will be a little doughy on the inside. So I like to make mine no more than 1/4 of an inch thick. You can do this with a rolling pin, but I like to do it just patting it out with my hands. It doesn't have to be perfect. You want it mostly in a big rectangle, so it all comes out even. Alright, so there we have our dough out. Okay, with the tomatoes you can do a few things with them. If you don't have fresh tomatoes, you can use just regular pizza sauce or a spaghetti sauce that you might have, maybe from a can or a jar. I like to drain them a little bit because if it's too wet, your rolls will be soggy. Alright, so what I've done with my fresh tomatoes is I've just cut them up. I peeled them, cut them up, and then I diced up my tomatoes pretty finely, and then I minced up my fresh basil, put a little salt on there, and let some of the juice extract, and then I dumped it out. And then I just put a little bit of olive oil in there, and of course I chopped up a bunch of fresh garlic, probably about 5 good cloves of fresh garlic. And I'm just going to spread that right on my dough. And I don't want too much on here because it will get soggy. So we're just going to do a light spreading. Don't get too close to the edges because when you roll it up, it will all squish out. So go about 1 inch to the edge. Alright, I can add a little bit more there. This is like an Italian salsa. It would be great on crostini, some toasted Italian bread, some focaccia. It would be excellent. Great appetizer. But today I'm going to cook it inside my pizza roll. It's a great fall recipe when you feel like heating up your oven. Alright, I'm going to get just about all of my chopped up tomatoes on here. Alright, it smells so good. Spread that out a bit. Okay, set that aside. Then we're just going to layer on some cheese. Now I've chopped up in my food processor that leftover provolone cheese. You can use mozzarella, you can use a combination. You can even, if you have a bunch of cheese sticks that aren't getting eaten, you can process those in a food processor. Makes great topping. Alright. provolone is a bit stronger flavored than mozzarella, but it's a great cheese to use, a lot of flavor. Alright. I probably had a good half a pound to 12 ounces of cheese left over that I'm putting on here. We want it nice and cheesy in there. Alright, let's kind of evenly put that over. Okay, now I also had a bunch of salami. Now this is just the kind of salami that you'd see on a meat tray. It's not pepperoni, and it makes awesome pizza rolls or pizza topping. A lot of people think pepperoni is the only thing that you can put on top of your pizza, but actually just hard salami is really good. That's what I had a bunch left over. It doesn't keep in the refrigerator very long, so I just stick it in the freezer if I have some left over from a meat tray that I've done, which in this case is exactly what happened. So I just stick it in the freezer, and a lot of times I'll chop it up and put it into a spaghetti sauce or pizza topping, like I said, or just a lot of different things. Roll it up around a cheese stick and make little appetizers. Cut them up into bite-sized pieces and just stick a toothpick in them, and they make wonderful appetizers. Alright. I want to use this all up, so we're going to make it kind of heavy. Okay, now you're just going to start from one long side of your dough, and you're going to just kind of lift it up and get it started into that roll, encasing that filling. Alright, and then you just roll it up. Try not to push your fillings off of your dough. Kind of have to lift as you roll. Otherwise, by the time you get to the other edge, all your filling will be oozing off your pizza crust. Alright. I also have my oven heating up to about 425. You want it good and hot. Alright, so far so good. Move that mat back just a bit. Makes a really good sized roll. Make sure I have enough dough left over. Just stick it all together. Alright. Okay. Now you want to pinch that edge together, otherwise all your filling will ooze out when it's cooking. Now you can just cut this in half, or keep it all one big long roll, seal up your ends, and you can bake it like that, and then just slice it into servings after it's baked. But I like to cut it into rounds before I bake it, because then I can have individual servings that my family can take for their lunch. They can take it right out of the freezer and pop it into the microwave or the oven and heat it up for a snack. It's just kind of more convenient that way. Alright, turn it over, seam side down. Okay, now sometimes I use a trick when I'm making cinnamon rolls to use a piece of string, or more likely it's going to be a piece of dental floss that's not flavored anyway, and I'll just pull it right through to cut them into rolls. But because there's so much stuff in here and that salami is kind of tough, I'm going to use a bread knife to slice these into individual servings. Alright, So just starting at one end. You can make these as thin or as thick as you want. I like to make mine about an inch thick. And don't push down, just lightly slice. And you want to have a cookie sheet ready to go. Of course, I've lined mine with parchment paper. If you don't want to do the parchment paper, make sure that you have it sprayed, otherwise these will stick. And just put it right there on. And keep going. And just slice. And put them, now you don't want to crowd them. Don't have them touch. Okay, you can see how that's looking when it's sliced. It's very pretty. It's going to cook up really well. I'm just going to keep slicing these and I'll fill up my cookie sheet. And show you what that looks like when I'm all done. So I'll see you back in just a few minutes. Okay, I've gotten them all cut and put on our cookie sheet. Alright, you see how they're not packed together. You don't want them to pack together because once we put them in the oven, they're going to rise together pretty much anyway, and you want to have it so those rolls can get cooked. Otherwise, they'll be soggy and not good to eat. So I'm just going to stick these into my 425-degree oven. And I'm going to cook these because they're kind of juicy and have a lot of stuff in them. I'm thinking that they're going to take at least 25, maybe even 30 minutes. But I'm going to check them at about 20 minutes, make sure they're not over browning, and then I'll adjust from there. So I'll see you back in maybe 25, maybe 30 minutes. Okay, look at these. They are absolutely divine. Can't wait to get into one. Alright, these were cooked for about 26 minutes. That's just about what it took. They're nice and firm all the way through. If you don't get them cooked enough, the insides will be soggy. This middle part will be doughy and soggy, and you'll probably still eat it. They'll still taste okay, but it will be amazing if you get them cooked all the way through. So I'm just going to dish me up one. That one looks good right there. And this is really when you see how nice that parchment paper is. Alright, there we go. Cheesy goodness. This is hot out of the oven. Wow, it smells great. Alright. Wow. Does that ever look good? It's a little too hot to take a bite. Wish you were here to smell this. It'd be absolutely wonderful to share this with you. So, if you ever get a wild hair to make yourself up some pizza rolls, I don't think you'll go wrong. You can put a lot of stuff in there. You can call them Mexican roll-ups, pizza rolls, lots of different things. Look through your refrigerator and see what you have and put them in some pizza dough, roll it up, and voila. Really good eats. See you next time.